My 9-year-old son was recently diagnosed with autism level 1. He started researching it when he has computer time. Recently, he asked me, why do they call it a disorder? And when I explained that diagnoses are usually given in light of how traits affect someone in an holistic society, he said, it seems very odd that people who don't have autism get to label it as a disorder. I want to help him find peace with himself in a world that labels him disordered. I'd love your feedback.
Mm, mm.
Dave, you want to go ahead on this? I'll follow up.
Yeah, mine's as usual. Mine is a little more theoretical, kind of socially driven than Barry's probably very well articulated answer. But it is true that I do agree. In fact, this child said it better than I ever have in all my public speaking engagements, which is, it seems a little bizarre, a little odd that somebody not of this type can label this type. It's I guess my response to that would be, well, buckle up, because the rest of life is just that theme repeating itself over and over. And I think what is helpful is to understand that until such a time as there's a sort of a natural order of things that is defined and everybody agrees on, which won't happen, you should know that people are essentially trying to understand who they've got in front of them, right? And so whether that's a label helps them, whether that's pulling from prior experiences and comparing them to, oh yeah, I met somebody like this before. The reality is, knowing as much about yourself is really, I think, the most helpful thing about any sort of diagnosis or any sort of revelation like that is the information it gives you about yourself. And you can't trip yourself up too much on how other people might be perceiving you, because A, you might be getting it wrong. They might not be perceiving you as anything. And B, regardless of what the external perceptions are, you can't really control those in people.
And Dave, can I just ask you, I mean, what I love about this question, this child saying, why do they call it disorder? Why does someone else get to call it a disorder? To me says, he's not drinking the Kool-Aid of other people who say that this family's done a really wonderful job of saying, hey, you're neurodiverse, and that's awesome. That's not disordered. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, in fact, kudos to the family too. I mean, that's the big win for me is in this question, is that well, to use Barry's phrase, I mean, it's uniquely human, right? Or it's bright and quirky. It's you've got your strengths, and again, people get tripped up on that word disorder. It's almost like if we could change it to autism type or profile or whatever you want to call it. But no, that's the self-confidence piece too, that will help you. Hopefully, my hope is that this sort of inquisitive look at, like, wait a minute, you say I'm the disordered one? That self-confidence, if he can keep that and hold on to it, and it can be nurtured in the family dynamic and everything, will serve him so well. It's sort of like when I'm on the plane with somebody and, they always yak, they start asking a lot of questions, and they eventually back me into a corner where I have to answer what I do and why I'm traveling. And I say, well, I'm an author. I wrote this book about, Asperger's syndrome, autism. And so they immediately assume that they've got me figured out. They're like, oh, this guy must be Rain Man or whatever is going on in their brain. But they do. I just saw the word superpowers show up on the thing, and they assume I'm like a math savant, or I can play, Brahms on the piano without opening my eyes, or whatever the case is. And it's like, no, but it's funny, because that same person, if I were to be sitting there talking about like the etymology of stink bugs for 2 hours during the flight, then all of a sudden I've got a disorder. But meanwhile, the same person could be yapping at me about the Chicago Cubs and baseball trivia for 2 hours, and suddenly he's like this social savant. So I think keep nurturing that attitude of like, so you think I'm the one with the disorder. Got it. Thanks.
I think if we could just get rid of disorder and say condition, that would help so much. And I also like to ask kids, what would they call their brain? And use that language. And I've had great success with a lot of kids who have ADHD and are on the spectrum, or have anxiety describing their brain. I have a foggy brain, I have a fast brain, I have a deep questioning brain, whatever it is, and then to use that language. You know, I think that that we will be moving more and more in the future within the umbrella of neurodiversity rather than these labels. And you know, a lot of these labels come from the need to, you know, bill insurance or, you know, get reimbursement, and they're not actually from lived experience. Sorry, I know, Barry, it was your turn, but I just had to jump in.
Yeah. I mean, my response to this question is actually very straightforward and direct, and that is, tell this youngster he's absolutely right. He has a more balanced view of his autism. People are now using the word condition more, and I would not just that it's, you know, the parents' opinion or Barry's opinion that he's right, that there's a whole segment of people who think like he does, that have, you know, neurological differences that he has, who agree. And they're getting up there and they're saying, wait a second, let's get disorder out of here. And that's not to dismiss the challenges. It's to try to level the playing field and to get a more balanced view. And I think that that's really important. And I do believe that eventually with the strength of the self-advocate community and their voices now at very high levels at NIH and at other levels, that eventually, you know, disorder is going to be either dropped or it's going to be softened in some way. This is a major issue right now in the field. Yeah.